Okay, let me see. So going good? What's up? Sorry for the delay. Had some stuff come up, so I'm trying to get my stuff all set back up. And unfortunately for me, I missed a Jalal chapter, but it doesn't really matter if I was there for it or not on stream. It happened, and guess the hell what? I was correct. Oh, hang on. Shit, the audio going through the screen of me. There we go. What's up, Daniel? How you doing today? I'm guessing we're going to be getting an Erza chapter. I was super hyped just to get a new Jalal spell. Oh, I was so stoked. I saw him pull out the Grand Chariot, and I was like, don't do me like this, Mishima. Don't do me like this. I better not leave this fight without something in addition to my guy. And on top of that, it's the 9, obviously, 9 out of 10 fingers. Meaning that he's got at least one more higher end spell. He's got at least one more big dick spell in him to drop. Chapter should be out in like 15 minutes, 13 minutes. Kind of hungry. But I'm definitely reading this chapter. Because also, the one I wanted to see the most was Jalal's fight. Just because that was the one I was most interested in terms of like just a straight combat. In terms of the interesting of seeing one of the characters perform, obviously, I want to see Duke fight. But Erza versus the Signario sisters is a really weird one. She was already in a bad spot when only one of them was fighting. I don't really know what the plan is with 2. Unless the Signario sisters are actually one character that controls 2 bodies or something like that. And it is revealed to be one character. The Signario sisters are really weird in this, and that's one of the things I am interested in, is just their general connection to the plot, because it doesn't seem like they're puppets, like a lot of the other members, because Sai was never at any point depicted as being a puppet, or being a machine, or any form of creation, and so far that's the same thing with the Signario sisters. Everybody that we have had that is some form of creation of Dukes, we've gotten very clear indications of it pretty immediately. What's going on, Nevs? How you doing? Oh, where have I been? I've been getting set up to upgrade my computer. I'm going to have my new mic soon, and then I'm getting a new graphics card that I'm going to hopefully be able to get installed within the next week or so. But I'm getting my stuff set back up in full, because I really just wanted to get everything like actually well set before I came back in full force. And I've got some stream topics all set up for me as well. Luckily, I've been able to keep my my plans in that. I've got a couple that I want to do, just like some talking about like the Baum Alliance, talking about like each individual Dark Guild, having like focus streams and stuff like that. We just talk about different guilds each day. I think that'd be fun. Like 1 week we talk about a guild. We say, okay, well, we're going to talk about Blue Pegasus this week. And then for like the streams, we talk about the members. We talk about scenes. Because, I mean, like, I could talk about Ichiya. Ichiya is actually a really fun character. It actually does really well. Oh, and I got to remember to post the stream on Twitter right quick. 1 second for me, fellas. Let me get this posted real fast. One sec. There you go. Fantastic. See, there's no way that at this point, I don't see Laxus getting anything as big as Orion. Yeah, Orion, I would say Orion is definitely stronger than Oranometria as well. Shalal's power-up wasn't even really like a, some outside source showed up. It was an emotional, like, step forward for his character. No, so the Signario sisters, though, are different than either Laxus or Jalal's fight, because those were 2 wizards fighting. That has to do with 2 clashes of magic. Alchemy and magic are 2 completely different power systems, and it's very clear that alchemy has more direct, if requirements are met, then the action of alchemy will happen. It doesn't seem to be really power level based. It seems more as the power level restrictions to alchemy is more of like the level of crazy transmuting you can do. Like, okay, can you turn something into something else? From like, oh yeah, I can turn a rock into a slime bubble, or like, can I turn a rock into gold, or can I turn a rock into a person? Like, the clear gaps, at least that what we've seen. We haven't got any like in-depth explanations, because it's what we know of so far is it doesn't have a power system at all. It runs off of the body of the person, and that's just off their stamina. There's no like energy requirement outside of the physical requirement to perform the alchemy. So it's just really weird comparing like what alchemy does to what magic does. All I can really do is just kind of say that they're within tier of each other. The Signario sisters, though, from what we've seen, are just really tricky in how their powers work, and they're hard to even really work around. We haven't seen anything that's a clear, like, large power gap between them. It's more of an ability difference of Erza, who has a straightforward general style of attack with utility and countering and defense, versus people who transmute the world around you and alter the terrain and just can just do things at will and do all kinds of weird stuff to your body and shit. It's annoying in terms of power scaling. You can't really gauge it the same way, just because when it gets down to it, like, are they like Duke right now? Duke has just got a good example. When Natsu hit him, that's a clear indicator that even though he's an alchemist, he's physically capable. He's strong. He's got a very strong body. We don't know if that's because he's made by Viernes or if the original Duke was made like that. I assume it's always like that just because it's supposed to embody the actual person. But when you look at that, it shows that, okay, he is not just, I have a hack's power and I'm really good with it. He is, I can actually fight and take damage. We don't know about that with the Signario sisters. From what we've seen is they have ways of dancing around damage. I imagine that they can fight. It's just like in terms of like actual like direct melee combat fighting and like being able to take hits. It's just going to depend on what we get for them, because I still have the theory that they're dragons. All right, we got the chapter coming out in about 6 minutes. Let me get to some more of the comments. I really appreciate if you guys, anybody that's here, can thumbs up the stream. Hit the thumbs up button. I am going to, like I said, I'm sorry for the short delay in the consistency of my streams. I was trying to get my stuff set up to get my computer upgraded, and I already had plans to get like my new mic. I want to get a new keyboard. My keyboard works, but it's like the spot where a couple of the keys are starting to get a little wonky. But it's going to depend. Obviously, if you guys want to, help pat me on the back for that one, if you want to, any amount of money pretty much goes towards my setup of trying to upgrade my parts. I actually am sad. This is a completely extra thing. My headphones, they work just fine, but it's like that, that layering that's on the headphone cushioning is starting to come off a little bit. The foam is still undamaged, but it's that little layering on top, so I just got to be careful with it. Because these headphones have lasted me for a while. I remember I bought them. They're like $200, but I got them like, I want to say like 3 years ago, and they're still going really well. Let me get some of the comments, though. Oh, hold on. Got a couple minutes. Like I said, I really appreciate some thumbs up. And if anybody, feels I've earned any amount of patronage, I'd appreciate it. But other than that, let me get to the comments. And then once we get to the actual chapter, we're not going to talk about... I'm not going to read the comments until after I get through it, and then we'll discuss what goes down. I'm hoping we get some really cool, like, Jalal revelation, like he realizes something interesting and we get some commentary. We don't have to get the full reveal, but if Jalal can give us a little bit more light into the mystery, obviously, like, was it Rogue came into the guild hall for Gold Owl and found like a doll on the floor. One thing that was noticed too that's very weird is when Lucy like became giant, she like broke through the ceiling. It's not that there's a sky. It's like they're inside of a it's like a controlled terrain, kind of like the idea of kind of like the domain expansions a little bit. I like, as far as we could tell so far is no compressed space. I just would imagine so, just because of the size of the characters that they, or the space we're at versus I don't imagine they're far from Gold Owl. Just because it seems like something that Viernes and so far Duke and the Signario sisters have the capability of doing some crazy power like that without even having to leave the comfort of their guild. Let's see. Probably Orion is compared to Grand Chariot. I mean, it has to be significantly more powerful. Like, again, the gap between Oranometria to Godfrey, if not much larger, just from the general effect. When we saw him get hit by Grand Chariot, there was no presence of, like, it really being a struggle for him to push back on it. But with Orion, it was like ripping his skin off. And granted, he's mechanical. I imagine his body is still as durable. And like his synthetic skin and stuff is going to be the same, just because of if Duke specializes in a master of human transmutation, I imagine that they are exact, pretty much replicas. They function almost exactly the same and have the same textures. So, like, and on top of that, he was like not even able to really attempt a counter. It wasn't one shot immediately, like it didn't hit him and then he just turned into a puff of dust. But he clearly was trying to push back against it, and it was destroying his body to even try, which I thought was really cool. I thought that was just a really good visual indicator of stuff that was going on. You see, I'm just scrolling through some of these really fast. See if there's any like hype ones in there I can get to. See, Athena's weird because we don't really like Athena's character went a completely different way. I thought Athena was going to be a weapon, like a physical weapon. My whole original theory was it was going to be a weapon that Erza was going to get, like some form of ancient sword infused with dragon slaying powers, kind of like the idea of the dragon cry, but towards the sword. I think would have been really cool. Imagine if there was a couple weapons. Imagine this. This is badass. Imagine if there were a couple weapons in the verse that formed on like mass grave sites of dragons killed by Acnologia. So, like, there's just one weapon in each area that just absorbed all this power and became a master, like some form of super weapon, and Erza got a sword for it. That'd be a really cool side quest in the 100 Years quest, and maybe they look for items like that to try and fight Ignia. Ooh, that would be cool. Why don't Gods needs Dragon Force? 2nd gen Dragon Force is not very good. And God Serena seemed more to focus on the utility with his powers rather than trying to push the dragon slaying aspect of it. Because I imagine with him, he doesn't really, the way that he fights, it probably doesn't come up the idea of him struggling as much because he doesn't have to, he has so many ways to instantly get back to his normal state of power, and he has all these counters, and a counter can make a big difference in a fight. So I just don't think he gets into a lot of those. Once he got to where he's at, he was almost stuck there. Like, he only can really get bodied, or he's going to run over his opponents. He can't really get pushed to his limits by any opponent unless it's like somebody specifically designed to push them to essentially that limit. If Jalal wanted to let their fight extend out and wasn't trying to, overwhelm him. It's like the idea with same thing with August, is you can't really have, like having August have an opponent where he's being pushed to the absolute limit and he's not just stomping somebody is hard because of how his powers work. I think someone like Duke could, just because of the way that his powers work, and he seems to actually be really capable and up here in tier, and he wouldn't be able just to copy and become immune to Duke's powers. So it's like that. Specific things like that could come up, but outside of that, it would be hard to have a character like that in a regular stream of combat. Okay, so it is an Erza chapter. I saw the chapter, the name of the title. It's called Versus World, and Erza's on it. So it's got Erza snowboarding. There's a rabbit. I'm like, the thing with the Signario sisters, I'm just going to say this now. Let me put this out here now. Like, I don't think the Signario sisters are going to lose here. But if they do, I need it to be like some form of reveal. Like Erza, learns something shocking. Like, oh, the Signario sisters are just a ploy. It's something that he's just doing for, like, I'm trying to, like, I don't know what reason, because it would have to do with Duke or Viernes like I'm still hoping they're dragons and we're gonna get some crazy thing with that. But let's get to the chapter. It depends entirely what we get from it, because the Signario sisters are weird extra characters, and we don't have any reason so far to think that they have any longevity or importance. Because with Duke, we have the whole, how did Duke get connected to Viernes? How did Gold Owl get to this position? What happened with, like, Athena's creation? And, like, was it him who set this up? What? Oh, yeah, I need something to drink. Was it Viernes in his whole general, like, takeover of the guild? It becomes a huge question of how things got to where they're at. The Signario sisters don't have anything like that. It's more of who are they and, like, what's up with them in this guild. Because, like I said, anybody who's been mechanical or creation has immediately pretty much been said so. Granted, doesn't mean that they can't be some form of transmuted fake humans, but it's still possible. But let's see. Oh, so she's actually talking about, like, potentially killing Erza now, or at least fighting her. What is Erza gonna do, is my question. Because Erza, as long as Erza doesn't get caught, it seems like she could stay in the fight. And they've only had, like, really versatile and annoying powers. Nothing the Signario sisters so far have seemed unbeatable for somebody at Urza's level. Like, if Erza used her whole, like, shooting star sword, I can't remember the exact name of it, her shooting fairy sword, whatever, and one of them caught it, it'd be different of, like, okay, well, how's she gonna beat him? But, oh, hold on, is someone knocking at my door? 1 second. Never mind, we're good. I was thinking about it, I was like, well, my dog's not freaking out, so probably nobody. But Urza's just in a little scuffle with him. But they haven't really done anything that have seemed out of the... Oh, shit, my mic fell over. Out of level where Erza couldn't contend with it. It seems more of Erza just can't get caught, and it's just a tricky battle of her just having to act on the fly. I don't think that's the only thing that the Signario sisters can do, but we're going to have to wait to see what really they specialize in when it gets kind of crazy. Because so far, all they've really done is just a lot of crazy stuff that gets thrown at Erza. Using her adamantine armor to block, like, a big spiked heart. I like how they... See, one thing I really like in general about, like, the interactions of characters running in different power systems is, like, Gray thinking it's something is, oh, it's a different kind of magic. Sai thinking, oh, water alchemy. The Signario sisters saying armor alchemy. And it's just, like, the people, like, just assuming that they're always fighting their straight, like, opponents of their own classification and their own profession, and not assuming it's something of just a different type from a different land. I think that's always really cool, because it just gives commentary on the normality of, like, these different types of characters fighting, and their lack of experience of running into, you know, vice versa, each other's types of powers. So that's smart. She's using her alchemy to alter Urza's clothes, to alter her armor. But it's like, so she should still be able to use her magic, but then at that point it's like she's just gonna she only has so long until it gets altered. It's kind of like with Rufus and Gray. What is she gonna do though? She's getting beat up by a... I was gonna say it kind of looked like Taurus, but it's a bear. It's just a big old boxing bear. Rue was just talking about how she's not going to beat her. She says she's going to destroy this world. So this is what I want to see. I want to see Erza push the limits of this space, because I don't think that this is a... I think it's kind of like one of those dimensions where it's like you have an object. kind of like the TARDIS from Doctor Who, where you have something it takes up a set amount of space, but inside it's bigger. So maybe inside of that doll is this little pocket dimension. So if Erza breaks the confines of this whole area, they would pop out of it, I would assume. Ooh, Heaven's Wheel. Really nice Heaven's Wheel spread. We haven't had that in a long time, especially with the cool flower floor. Like, that's a nice old callback. She just keeps it's just sword spam versus alchemy alchemy spawn. So this is what I'm talking about, though. So, like, the Signario Sister's power is super versatile. It's kind of like an example of, like, Rill or Dorothy. You have a lot you can do, but you don't have any direct, like, main skill. Like, what is it? Jack of all trades, ace of none. And granted, we don't know entirely what she can do yet, but at the same time, it's like, if she can just keep summoning, essentially, not summoning, but spawning all of these creations, whether they're minions or they're, like, projectiles, objects, as long as Erza has the time to react to it and the time to counter it, sword spam at it, throw as many blades as possible, do whatever she needs to destroy it before it can reach her, she still has the opportunity to fight. The Signario Sisters haven't done anything overwhelmingly crazy yet, but obviously that's current display. But it's what I was talking about with, like, their kinds of powers. I'm hoping that they can do more than just this, and we've only seen one of the sisters fight, though. Luso is just getting mad. I imagine her sister is just going to be way more powerful because she seems way calmer. And my guess, too, is with Alchemy. Like, here's an example. We have the Arc of Imagination, Arc of Embodiment. You can manifest things into reality that you think of from your imagination. And we've seen if your focus is broken, some form of immediate shock, it will dissipate your creations. So I'm willing to bet that alchemy at this level, it has to do with your mind, and losing focus will mess with your ability to transmute, maybe in speed or maybe the quality of what you're creating. Kind of like how with make magic, using only one hand generally makes your make unstable and it can be destroyed easier. So she's just making tons more monsters and kind of just spawning more stuff for Erza to attack. That's what I mean, though. She doesn't have anything really crazy. It's like a better version of Yoko's spiritual art. So I'm expecting them to do something. See, this is what I mean. Okay, here we go. So Luso gets defeated, and the older sister gets involved. And this is what I think I really was hoping to see, is somebody who is actually taken the skill at that stage and really done it to a crazy degree. Like, when it comes to free-form powers, anything like this, when it comes to magic, you generally have techniques, spells, and certain ways that the power can be crafted, and you can create your own spells. With alchemy, it seems way less less like free-formed of a branch, and more of like, oh, if you're using iron alchemy, you have a set of iron, you can turn it into these specific shapes. Very basic in terms of a mass amount and what you're transmuting. But there's stage levels of the thing that you can affect, from like basic elements, minerals, people, the world, and then eventually concepts. But when you get to certain stages, you're going to be set at a spot of how you're going to progress. Like, imagine you go from being able to control a cup of water to being able to control a pool. Okay, well, after that point, what do you do with the power? Are you going to branch out into large water quantity primarily? Are you going to make your power versatile? Are you going to condense it into like pressurized bullets or blades? It depends on how you format your abilities. So somebody like this who's pretty much just spamming, and she's just taking all of these attacks and throwing it and throwing it and throwing it, it has it can overwhelm an opponent, but somebody who has, as we've seen, because Erza fought, though not the same level as somebody like this, somebody a bit weaker when they were in Ellen tier, she has a way to go about it, because the whole yokai that Yoko had, some of them had a couple abilities and tricks to them that was what cost her the fight the first time they went around. Obviously, there was like the first problem, you can't, like, directing magic to superior, it doesn't have the same hit-on effect of being able to, like, dissipate the summon, but it was like certain effects of those specific monsters that were able to take her down. So stuff like that Lusa's been doing, where she's just taking things and throwing at Erza, and they're just things. They aren't things with abilities. Like, oh, this bear that last hit her, it's not like, oh, Erza now, her legs are 50% heavier, so she now loses, like, a degree of mobility. And, like, oh, well, this thing, once you destroyed it, it made it so your hands are sweatier or something, so it's harder to wield a sword. Like, things that would become a problem. She's just doing things and throwing things at an opponent. It's the same thing that Dorothy does. But as we're seeing with the actual older sister here, is that she is the one that's really, I would imagine, serious and actually taking the whole lessons and information seriously. Because alchemy seems way more... I mean, alchemy is pretty much magic science, really, when you think about it. It's not as much like magic. Like, magic's whole thing is, like, especially, like, within fairy tale, it's like the idea of, like, the wind or water. It goes and flows with the person to a degree. It depends on who it is. But with alchemy, it's more like a science and like a discipline. Think of it more of like, kind of like a... Not the same, because there's obviously discipline with magic, but I imagine with alchemy it has more to do with concentration, because instead of it being like, oh, I'm taking magic, something that is free, and giving it a certain shape, with alchemy you're going through specific steps to, not in raw science, but pretty much science. It'd be like, I would assume, if you were conducting an experiment, just imagine, scientists with all those chemicals and everything set up, and they're not being as careful with measurements and very specific amounts. Like, oh, well, this might take this chemical over here, but you put 2 drops too many, and now there's an overwhelming chemical reaction, and they're not able to do something properly. Ooh. So what is this? Hold on. So I've been stuck on this page. Hold on. So I saw the art style change, and this is what I was talking about when it came to the style. If you look at how Luso spawns, it's more of that kind of like cartoony, cute, a little bit horror-y, to where they're kind of spooky a little bit, but not too much. As her anger progresses, they start to get more gross and weird. And once she starts to really get pissed off, she creates everything to look more monstrous. But it's only still so far. It's kind of like... It's made to look gross, but if you imagine monsters and stuff, it's like the lower level monsters kind of thing. And the second that Annie gets involved, the first creature we see, it's like they're on like this... It looks like this freaking eclipse sacrificial altar mound. And there's like a creature inside of another creature, and it's screaming with its eyes bleeding. And I think that's just really cool. And so she does a requip for her own armor of destruction. She has this sick black armor, really cool looking black armor, with like this jagged blade with eyes on it. And these badass horns. So she's saying that, oh, you can use the same magic as me, and she's asking if she's a wizard. I'm very curious about that response. Because is it that she can use her power because, like, Erza's in her world, so, oh, I can use the power of anybody in my world and do it to my own style, which would be really cool. I think it'd be really cool if she did know some magic, and she's just, it's a coincidence that she knows requip, but it goes more along the lines of, oh, while learning alchemy, I thought it was important to learn the discipline of some of the other power systems, essentially. She's like, I learned the basics of spiritual arts. I learned the basics of curses. I learned the basics of magic. And Requip was just one that was really convenient for me to be what I specialized in when it came to it. So I was like, oh, I picked Requip because initially it was like a utility thing, helped me without using, storing materials for alchemy, which would make a lot of sense because Requip at its core, it's not what Erza does. Erza's is a specifically set stash of weapons and armor requipped at high speeds. Similar to how you have someone like Biska, who's the gunner, who has all of her guns in her own pocket dimension. Requip at its core is you essentially have an inventory space. You have your own pocket space where you can store items in. So somebody who's an alchemist, especially a growing and training alchemist, it would make a lot of sense for them to have essentially an inventory. Oh, cool, I just found this rare mineral. Let me put it in my own pocket space. Because it's like telepathy from what we've seen. Requip isn't a complicated magic at its lower levels. So I imagine somebody who learned Requip, imagine you learned Requip at a standard level and you knew how to do it because it was essentially, like I said, an inventory. It's your bag for collecting while you learn about other power systems. Imagine you go on a journey. You're like, okay, I'm going to travel the land to learn, whatever. I'm going to have my own character arc and learn certain things, gather materials for alchemy, because obviously gathering materials is really important. And eventually you're like, okay, I've got all my stuff kind of hammered. I've got a grasp on everything that I need to, but what do I need to do to get better? Because there's also the fact that, and this is one of the things I really am hoping Mishima will do with Gray, is get Gray alchemy, because we need characters with other power systems. At the same time, Wendy's pretty much universal, doesn't need it. I think Erza, with her ability of the fact that Wendy has shown her a degree of enchantment to where she can enchant another person's magic into her swords, I think she's good. I think Erza really just give her a new cool armor every once in a while, show her just developing her enchantment of swords. I think that's a really cool power because it can work with almost anybody. And it can give ways for such cool combo attacks too. But with Lucy, keep Lucy pure celestial spirit magic. I think Lucy should be pure celestial spirit magic. She's the only real celestial spirit mage around, sorry, Yukino. And it's pretty much a lost magic at this point. So I think it'd be huge to just kind of keep her as a pure version of her own magic. Natsu, though, I mean, he's got his Etheria stuff involved. I mean, he's got curse power running through him as well. Gray also as well to a degree for curse power with his devil slaying magic. But I think with alchemy it'd be really cool to give him an extra buff because he's also not. He's the only one there not from a special lineage or something important. We don't know Wendy's parents, but obviously her being raised and trained by Grandine, a big deal dragon is important. Lucy's from not some super family, but still clearly a family of importance. Still something that has significance in the grand scheme of things. I mean, on top of that, because it's weird because her family has three specific, Lucy, Layla, and Anna are all very significantly powerful characters. Really, when you gauge it, Lucy obviously we see where she's at now. With Anna, we know that Anna was a massively powerful person at her point in time. And with Layla, we don't really get any fights, but we do get certain indicators, like her being able to summon 3 celestial spirits at once, no problem. It was an anime scene, but I'm willing to bet Mishima approved upon her, at least had seen it. I think it makes sense, too, because she was capable of using her power, even though it consumed some of her life force, to open up the Eclipse Gate. If she was able to gather that many keys, too, I would imagine that she was practically the only golden key holder at a period of time before the gate was opened. So they have a strong history, but it's not like there's a long track record of them, because keep in mind that's 400 years of Heartphilias, and there's only 3 of them of real noteworthy significance. And from what we've seen from Lucy is that they have high potential, but they have to actually grind for it, and they don't just get it automatically. They have a lot of latent potential, and it can have like its parts where it peaks out, but they never really kind of come off as just outright OP. So I would love to see Gray get some alchemy soon. Man. But that's so cool. I love the idea of just it's like she's like, okay, well I've hit like a spot with alchemy. How do I get better? Well, I've already learned magic. What can I do to improve upon this? And she's like, well, I can get better at magic and maybe figure out something that's better with alchemy. You know, maybe it has to do with like the idea of with alchemy, you are taking something and turning it into something else generally specific. With magic, you're taking something formless and you are giving it shape. So instead of it being like, it's the difference of it, like it's like predetermined, like, okay, I'm turning a stone into gold. But it's like you have magic, raw energy, and I can generally create anything I want with it. I'm not really limited. It just depends on, obviously, the magic that you're able to learn and how much power you have at your own disposal. It's just one of those kind of variables in there. So it'd be cool if she's like, well, I'll get better at magic, and then maybe something will kind of come up, and, you know, something in my mind will be realized in helping me get better. Suzaku beat Jalal. See, Suzaku beating Jalal, I could see it, but it's like Jalal is just that guy all the time. And the difference, though, between Natsu and Jalal, like, first encounter, is Jalal wouldn't underestimate Suzaku, I think, the same way that Natsu did. And Natsu didn't do it as, like, oh, this guy's weak. He did it as more of, like, the Natsu way of, like, I'm going to go in and I'll gauge his style, and he didn't go into a fight with as much severity as he needed to when he went up against Suzaku. But that just happens because sometimes you get I was expecting Spider-Man 2 streams. Yeah, I didn't even play Spider-Man 1. When it comes to characters, sometimes you have those characters that just they don't want the banter, they don't want the scuffle. They have the ability to go for the kill, and they're going to try and go for the kill. What is the chance we'll see Suzaku and Celine? Not until things have to really get out of hand for Suzaku and Celine to show up. Because you have to keep in mind that Celine being on the board is a huge deal. Like, Celine has to be limited in some way. We can't just have Celine show up, because, like, Celine logically could... Like, if Celine teleported in, she could just, like, literally look at Annie, look at Duke, look at Athena Mark II, and just go, you know, walk over, smash each of them, and then be done. Viernes would have to intervene at some point, but it's like there has to be some form of way that immediately gimps him or gimps her once she arrives. And the problem is that she has a fighting force that is a really good number of people, so we're going to have some form of countermeasure to deal with all the Diablos members, and there's members of Sabretooth that are going to be showing back up soon. So Viernes needs to get a plan going, or Duke. Jalal joins Fairy Tail, he automatically becomes S-Class soldiers to cover his position. I mean, pretty much. I mean, Jalal is going to automatically be one of the strongest people in the guild, like, not even remotely close. Like, Jalal is easily one of the strongest people on the planet. Not, like, you know, top 5. Like, I think there's still a couple, like, if I had to guess, I think there's still a couple of unknown characters out there. Because I think it makes sense, especially in areas with different power systems, is they have a couple of those, like, sleeping giants, like, in the world kind of characters. A couple of those dudes that are just overwhelmingly strong compared to everyone else around them. But they're somewhere off in the world you would have never really interacted with. Because the thing is, it's different when it comes to dragons versus a lot of their species, is dragons can fly. So they can traverse landscapes and oceans way easier than a lot of these other species. And granted, some characters can gain the ability to flight, but I don't think flight is universally going to be on every single character. Also still in the Sin state. No, he's pretty... I mean, I feel like the last chapter pretty much cemented, like, he's done. He's ready for Erza. He's ready to join the guild. I would assume that the only thing really left is for the adventure. I would love it if Mishima would have some... Like, we could stop having the whole back and forth of not having any form of like direct romance between Jalal and Erza. I think we should get to it, but we should get it as like in between arcs, like they start trying to actually like go on dates, like not like, oh yeah, we're going to lunch kind of thing. Like this is a set like romance outing, because that would be perfect for an in between chapter. Like it doesn't have anything to do with the 100 Years quest. It has more to do with the characters and stuff, and for people to care, because it would be. I would imagine a lot of people stoked just to see like an actual like big step forward for that. Because, I mean, after he just says like straight he's gonna join the guild, I feel like that's the last thing really for Jalal. I mean, like unless we're gonna get some plot where he's not gonna like pull out, or he does, and he's like, I can't, I'm not ready. I have to. My sins are too strong. No, I think he's good. I think of Gojo versus Makima. So I didn't watch it because it's like, I know Death Battle's wonky. What was the reason for Makima? Like the fact that he, like any damage from Makima goes to a Japanese citizen. Like did they bring that up at all? Because she can't die. Sam, it's like, no, definitely not. We have no reason to believe that Luso's durability is anywhere close to God Serena's. Because she implied that Yagdol Rigora would have taken her out if it actually directly hit her. And that's not even like a massive deal, because if she's just a straight, like essentially a caster with alchemy, her taking like a massive direct hit, I don't think that's a big deal. Because this is a second round, Ursa's been able to actually figure out a little bit about how she's fighting. She doesn't have to worry about other people in the fight. She's just a direct combat set. And like I said, the thing about how Luso fights, it has high utility, but it's like a jack of all trades, ace of none. It doesn't give you any like strong direct kill power or like ways to finish your opponent off. That's why I actually think so far it's cool with Eni, because like when you think about it, if Eni, the way that she directly if she directly fights and then she's altering the terrain and her environment, like imagine it's like Erza re-equips her armor and her weapon to fight. So she's like, okay, this is my opponent, this is what I need to do. So she puts on, bam, bam, now I'm set. So essentially, Eni could be that, but also she changes the, like, okay, this is my opponent, armor sword on, or whatever weapon she needs. And then on top of that, she alters the terrain, so the terrain is in her favor. Because that's a huge thing, obviously, in a battle, especially in a sword fight, is the environment you're in. So, like, that could be really cool, so, like, as in terms of just a general character depiction. Because from what we've seen, I mean, because we got this in the last fight, too, keep in mind, is Eni kept getting mad at her sister because her sister was fucking around. And that happens. Sometimes characters fuck around and they find out. And I don't think that's a problem, especially if it was a setup to really get, like, the big gunner here. Like, the heavy hitter out of the two of them. I really want to see what she can do if her alchemy, like, if she's using alchemy and, like, magic as, like, both prongs of attack and not alchemy just with a little bit of magic involved. What's up, Harumi? How you doing? No, God Serena got wrecked. Like, I told you my boy Jalal wasn't going to lose. Jalal was not going to lose that shit. Like, he was good. He had that. The only thing that was holding Jalal back was himself. Access alone. No, see, I don't see Jalal losing to Laxus after getting that freaking badass attack. And he purified his Dark Dragon. So it's like he has dark purification powers on top of that. So it's like he's getting more abilities in each fight. Jalal just is that guy. Yeah, Death Battle is not a very reliable source. I'm not a big fan of them. You didn't like the Jalal Redemption? I love the Jalal Redemption. What's up, Jirai? Right? How you doing today, my guy? I was super stoked. I didn't expect the backstory to Jalal as a kid at all. I didn't expect to see his mom or find out his real name, which I thought was really interesting because it's like he he gave a fake name, used his real name to kind of like as like malefically, and I wonder if that's kind of really what it comes down to is he felt sinful for disgracing the image of what he was going to do for his mother, but now he's like it doesn't really matter because though I did things, and I really like that Jalal's story isn't like I did wrong things, but I'm past that now. It's more of I've done horrible things, but I have something to live for past that, and I've found something greater to kind of live for rather than be dragged down by my own sins. Like Jalal definitely like understands like at a point like you out depending on obviously what you do, because it's like you accidentally like smash somebody's window versus like you burn their house down. It's going to take a lot longer to redeem yourself for those two things, or one versus the other. So like I think when it comes to Jalal redeeming himself for his crimes outside of his own being, that happened obviously a long time ago, but he's just in a spot where he's wondering if he's redeemed everything. Like he feels like he deserves it himself to be happy and to go about his life. And it makes sense if something like the thing that was weighing him down in the end was something that happened before we even saw him and things that we didn't know. And it had more to do with like essentially the start of his journey. The very start of his like character origin, having this idea of what he was going to do for his mother, and then later taking this name, the name that she gave him, and using it essentially as like a fake cover to commit crime and eventually, slavery, mass genocide. It's a real nice insight to his character, and I really liked that. I thought that was really, really good. And one thing too is like the lady who was his mom, it wasn't much, but there's like very slight facial features to Erza, which I thought was really interesting. What characters from other guilds we consider S-class? I mean, people like Ichia, Bacchus, Sting Rogue, Minerva. I feel like Yukino should be there just because, like, if she's got Star Dress, like, she's definitely there strength-wise. We just probably are never going to get, like, a solo Yukino fight again. Kagura. It's kind of people like that. Because S-Class is a really big window. So what we'll do at some point, we'll do, like, a large-scale, like, I need to convince like somebody to make me like a tier list of every single character, and we can just grade all the tiers. Because I want to do a stream of just going over Spriggan tier, because S-Class and Spriggan tier are really big tiers. They have just very large gaps between the bottom and the ceiling. Because it's like Spriggan, you start like the weakest Spriggan people are people like Elfman, Mimi. And then you have people that are top like August and Irene, and it's like the gap between those characters are tremendous. The crime sorcery, I mean, they're pretty much all split apart, right? Jalal's the only one active. Everybody else went to different guilds. Because Angel is in, she's in Sabretooth, isn't she? Yeah, because she's at the Sabretooth library. She's hanging out where Yukino's at. I think we will see Susaku and Celine in this arc, but not anytime soon. Because we need to... The thing is, we can't have them really show up without there being more opponents. Like, we need to either have... Because it's either going to be a bunch of opponents show up and then, reinforcements arrive for our side. Or it's going to be a bunch of opponents show up and, like, the main cast gets into a bad spot and then reinforcements arrive. Because you also have to keep in mind that Sabretooth is around, waiting to join the fray. And we don't know any other surprise characters. Because Mishima did confirm Gildarts was going to return in the 100 Years quest at some point. So at some point he's going to pop back into the story. I don't think it was just meant to be Gildarts, like the seed. The seed back in Drasil. Elfman? Yeah, Elfman is definitely Spriggan tier. Elfman has shown he has the durability and the physical strength, as he's just not fast enough. Elfman has shown if he can get his hands on somebody, as we saw with Agil, because Lisana is fast enough, but none of her other capabilities, like, she doesn't have enough physical strength. She doesn't have the durability. She doesn't have any of the bite in her attacks. She doesn't have any of like the level of utility that Elfman or Mirror have. She can compete speed wise, but that's it. So Mirror Jane and Elfman combined, being able to, combined have the stats needed to fight Agil, and then through countering in specific takeover forms were able to beat Agil. It made sense. Because obviously without Elfman, or without Lizana, Elfman just gets caught. He's not fast enough to react to certain attacks. He's not fast enough to really get the hits on. But with somebody who is able to get him maneuvered enough, that's where they were able to actually pull through. So Elfman has shown he has the capabilities. He just doesn't, he hasn't rounded out his stats in full yet in his capabilities. Like, he's close, but Elfman is one of those characters who just, the way that he's built and the way that he operates, he just funnels, he's always just doing pretty much durability and physical attack. And he's always been like that. If you go through the series, almost every single time Elfman gets bodied, it's by a character who's just faster than he is and somebody more nimble. Think about, I still, even today, I remember the first time I went through the fights, and it was you see Elfman fight Monsieur Soul, and it's he wins, and it's one of those fights where it's he's losing, but it's he's got to figure out, the question is, how's he going to pull through? And then you get to Evergreen, and you think, how is he going to beat Evergreen? And then he loses, and it's what the hell? And then he gets beaten up later in the arc by Freed, so it's he rough time for the guy. And so it's just anybody quicker than him just styles on him. Bacchus, it happens all the time. There's a Center Lara Diablos. Did she send in Lara Diablos? See, I actually don't remember that, if so. Cobra Midnight. Cobra is hanging out with his girlfriend. I don't really know what Midnight's doing. He's sleeping somewhere. Sam's always mad when it comes to Jalal. I think that the Erza fight was fine. Because the thing is, it was entirely used to make you go, oh shit. The first sister is just she's the warm-up. And I think that would make a lot of sense. Because think about it like this. They could both be characters. Think about it like this with Duke. Duke is clearly not your average human. It's very clear that humans don't generally get to this level of alchemy. We've seen way more people with magic at this level when it comes to these crazy, divine, I guess it can be a wide net, but divine-ish things we do have god stuff, but crazy super advanced science Wall, nuclear fusion when he's fighting wizards. But if you have Luso and Eni, who say that they have a lot of potential. They have a lot of untapped capability. And Luso is the serious one, Eni's the serious one who's obviously stronger. And she's my sister would be so much better if she just was more serious in her training and kept herself calm. So if she's one of those characters where it's the only gap between those two sisters is one is more serious and takes her alchemy, more so with dignity and way more focus, and you have okay, well, Erza as a character who's also similar to that is able to beat Luso, so then it's well, facing off against somebody who's not going to run into this problem, it's just going to come down to a direct clash. I think that is what you're looking for. So if Erza gets in this fight and then just beats Eni, then I would agree with you. But so far from what we've seen, I do not disagree with how Erza won the fight with Luso, especially when we already had her confirm that if Ragda Rigora, an attack from Minerva, who Minerva, you can say is Spriggan tier, but definitely on the lower half. Definitely not on the upper half. She, I would say, is maybe in if you maybe if there's you cut it into thirds maybe or quarters, maybe if you put it into quarters, she's in that second tier. She's not at the tip top. She's not even at the one before the tip top. She's at that second tier. So her we already have an admission from one of them that says if this attack hit me, I might be done. So that tells us is she does not have the durability for Erza if she doesn't have the durability for Minerva. Like, you have to keep context in mind. And I thought Mishima handled this really well in this general setup and execution for it, because it all plays out into essentially the Any reveal of Any's the one that actually is the real danger here, which I think makes a lot of sense in how she's just been sitting back watching, giving commentary on her sister. She could have been fighting at any time, but she's just been pretty much letting her sister do her thing. So, like, what if she's just trying to train her sister and trying to make her do better? Or maybe she's just like, well, I'm gonna let her just kind of do her thing. I will step in if need be. I think that would be really cool in terms of just her character arc. Because one thing about them too, it's like Mishima hasn't given signs for it. Because you can really tell with Mishima the characters that he likes more than others, because he shows more sides to them. That's why I knew that none of the members of Diablos were going to really die directly. Obviously, Wraith's different. But just because these seemed like more like they were going to be longer type characters, because they weren't just... Like, if a character is just one way in how they kind of operate, they don't have different, like, tones. Like, if you show a villain, they have a villain attitude, but then it's like they have a moment in between when they're not talking to their minions or some good guy or whatever they're trying to intimidate. They're just hanging out, and they're like having like a sit down talking to one of their other guys in their group, and they're just having like a chat. Maybe they have some funny gimmick. That's when you can tell he has a little bit more charm towards somebody. Happy Halloween to you as well. I'm excited. It's almost my birthday as well. So we got a pretty hyped chapter right before it. So I'll do a stream for that, probably for it as well. Maybe we'll do that later this week. So I really like... Because I saw her get like the weird color, like her dress and whatever was like starting to evaporate or whatever off her body. But she just had a different requip, and I like her armor of destruction, and she has this really cool black armor with a sick sword. I like the eyeball sword. I wonder what it does, because I imagine it has an ability. Having like a good requip fight is going to be really cool, because we had one in the movie, but it was not really focused. And Erza doesn't really fight a lot of opponents with her direct type of powers. Because it's not like Zoro generally fights other swordsmen. He'll fight sometimes characters that have blades and serrated weaponry, but generally he's fighting swordsmen. Erza doesn't fight a lot of swordsmen. She fights a lot of people with like varying powers, which obviously is one of the big key ways of like being more dangerous and having more experience of like how to fight more diverse opponents under your belt. But obviously, like, it's also important to have a lot of direct fights. Because, like, look at Gray. Gray's had multiple ice-on-ice fights. And, like, Erza doesn't have a lot of fights like this. No, definitely not going to say Erza over them. Because the thing is, like, if you put God Serena versus Luso, Luso should be able just to transmute all of his attacks. Because the way that he fights does not benefit him against how Luso fights. You have to look at the compatibility too. If a character is overwhelmingly stronger than another, you put God Serena against Rufus. It's different. But you put somebody in their tier, you can have them just be the same general level as you, but their powers just interact way differently. Like, you can look at how the Dragon Gods have talked of being equal to Acnologia, which I think is believable, but because if it comes down to a fight, his abilities just outrun theirs in how they're going to interact. So his powers are just going to counter the hell out of everything they do. So it's like, well, what are you really going to do if even though you're strong enough to fight him, nothing can connect and you're only feeding into them? I wish we got a new attack. I imagine that a lot of whatever Erza's thing. I feel like Erza's not gonna win though, because it's very clear that this fight was supposed to set up for Erza to be like one of those. Like one of those fights, you think you're beating the boss, but you're really only beating the mid-level boss, and now the actual boss spawns. Because Luso just being more of a caster from what we've seen lines up, and an opponent who's that plus being able to directly fight with like disciplined swordsmanship, I think is going to be way more of a problem for Erza. Because the advantages that she had over Luso, she's not going to have over any. Sam, I've already explained to you how the powers work, my guy. I don't need to go over it again. Great, Erza to help? Well, it wasn't set up to be that. So, if it was set up to be really the Signario sisters fighting in tandem, I would agree. Because it's like, my thoughts were that she was going to be fighting them 2v1, but I forgot that she doesn't seem to want to assist in her sister's fight. But the thing is, we saw already with Luso is that she fucks around. And we do know for a fact that she said that if Minerva's attack hit her, like, that would have been it. And that doesn't change anything. If God's Serena can tank it, but Luso can't, that doesn't mean anything significant towards the overall battle between Luso and of Luso and God Serena. Because God Serena's a dragon slayer. He's supposed to be a tank. Luso, at her core, from what we've seen, is more of a caster at Alchemy. She's a ranged fighter. She has ways of direct fighting to a degree, but she is not designed at her core to be somebody that takes a lot of damage. And from what we've seen is that she's not the real fight. It's you defeat this opponent to unlock the actual boss. Oh, someone's calling me. Or is it just an alarm? Oh, it's just some spam. Just some spam. What's up, Ken Mono? We were just talking. I'm going to try and stream multiple days this week. I'm leading up to my birthday. I'm very excited. I got a lot of hype coming up. I got BlizzCon coming. I'm not going to BlizzCon. I'm not doing that. I only go to cons sometimes. But I definitely am excited to see what gets revealed. It's like right afterwards. This was a solid birthday chapter, though. I'm always stoked to see, like, when the fight takes a turn you weren't directly expecting, but makes a lot of sense. Like Azuma, for example, dropping the tree, but at the same time, he's like, yeah, but I want to put this on the line and fight over this. We're going to be doing this right now. Because it has more to do with the characters and their personality and why this character is doing that. And it lets you understand the character just from connecting a couple of the pieces together. Like, if you know, okay, well, this character has showed this amount of... When's my birthday? Oh, what's today? Today's Tuesday. My birthday is Friday. So we'll do some streams then, too. Because we got some hype coming up. I mean, like I said, I'm excited just to see... I want to see this fight more so now because I want to see any. I'm hoping Erza maybe gets a draw or she loses. Like, if... I would rather this fight be, like, way more inconclusive. 'Cause I think it would be cool if Erza takes something away from this fight, and then it's like, she has to figure out what to do. She's not just able to beat her. But, I mean, it depends. Because is this going to come down to just now a straight sword fight? Or what? I don't imagine so. I imagine Annie has a lot more under her sleeve. Like, she's got a lot under her sleeve, up her sleeve. She's got more things that she's going to be doing. I think if Jalal came over, like we saw Jalal show up and Erza is just outright done, that would be cool. Like, imagine it's like we see the start of the chapter. The next chapter begins, we get some of the fight, they get some pushback, and it's kind of like, I'm imagining similar to Laxus versus Kieran, and to where they have like a bout, Erza's putting in way more effort, and then there's just a moment where she says something that pisses off Annie, and then we get back to it maybe the following chapter or at the end of the chapter, and it's like a double spread of Erza on the ground. Like, it's one of those ones where she's on some rubble, but like maybe her shoulders and back are like hanging off the side, so she's like most of the way on there, but like her body is like, it looks like it's gonna slip and fall off the edge, and you just have Annie standing over her with like her sword. It's like that sword pose, like it's in the ground and she's got her hand on it. Maybe like she's got like a couple scrapes, but Urza's in way worse condition, and she just like gives some comment. I want to see what she's like at this point, because all we've really had from her is she stands there. She stands there and just kind of glares, very unhappily. But now we have a chance to see her character, because if she has like any disciplines to her or anything that kind of like makes her more like, because she has the sword, if she has more of like a warrior's mentality, and maybe she's like, she defeats Erza but she doesn't kill her. She's like, oh, well, you might be useful, or it's like, I'm not going to cut somebody when they're unconscious. If I'm going to kill you, it's while you're awake, so you can remember my face in hell, or something like that. Because one thing that we've seen is, like, if this is directly her creation, and on top of it, I think this fits with the whole lava, like the general tone, is if she's more got that kind of like brutal seriousness, but she's got a code of honor to her. I appreciate it, Kenmano. It's gonna be, I know, I got like one more year and then I'm gonna be 30. I'm getting old. I'm planning to set up, like I said, the more consistent streams. I'm gonna stick to the 3. I needed to get my new mic. It should be here, I think, within the next few days, and then I'm gonna install my new graphics card. But I'm going to try and keep streams at a more frequent base. Because, like, I was doing a lot of driving recently, and I've listened to, like, a ton of podcasts. Like, it's like a lot of this, like, dude stream. They're, like, 3-4 hours all the time. And I remember people used to tell me, like, because I used to do my streams more often, they just like to listen and kind of just chit-chat. And I feel bad when it's, like, I feel like there's not a lot of fairy tale content. So it's, like, people who want those two contents to clash, talk about the current series, talk about some of the older stuff. They want to just listen to that while they're working or driving or just chilling. Like, am I robbing them of certain things? Don't worry, I got you guys. Oh, Kimano, thank you very much, my guy, for the $50. Happy birthday, my guy. I hope it's a blessed one. It's always good when I have nice people like you that brighten my day up. Thank you, my guy. I've been looking at getting some cards. So this might... Well, no, hang on. I gotta... Oh, you know what? Kamano, I'm gonna put that towards getting the new keyboard, my guy. Because it was like, I think like 53 or something for the keyboard I wanted to get. It's mostly just a replacement of the one I have. The one I have is starting to get a little old. And then I'm gonna have this new graphics card soon. So hopefully my computer is gonna feel a little more spick and span. But I do appreciate it, my guy. You've been a long time fan, a long time running. Gold owls filled with jobbers. So see, that's not true though. Like God Serena did good. God Serena did really good. Duke is so far doing really well. I've really enjoyed Duke's performance. Genai and Kotetsu did really good in their first bout. It's just like I said, they have a good power, but there's nothing they could have done against Brandish. And like, if they didn't have Sai there, like I still think that Lucy and Gray could have won, but I think it would have been more of a fight. Whereas if your power is transmuting things and other things, like, well, you can't really do anything if the character just becomes giant or just shrinks you. Because I thought that was going to come into play too. She was just going to shrink down. These guys, obviously that seems a little more complicated. We're just becoming giant and just power smashing them. Yeah, they have no counter to it. Kikuto living up to Akinogi's legacy. I want to know what Mishima's plan is. If it's just like a straight reference, if he's going to do a connection. I wish that he did a different color. I was so upset that he didn't have the like pink or purple and but went the blue. Oh, the notification came on. Thank you again, Kimano. I appreciate it a lot, my guy. Don't worry. I'm going to have some of these games servers put up at some point. Kenwana, do you play any games like Minecraft or anything like that? Terraria? I don't know what games you actually play. I want to play like a group game. Like, I would love to have like a large group game. I wanted to play Terraria, but nobody else had it, so I got to plan more about it. So hopefully, if we can get some people like into a game, like hopefully I can get maybe planned to something like if they do classic WoW Plus, that'd be awesome. Ooh, I can heart super chats now. Let me put that on there. It's for my guy Kenmano. Thank you again, my dude. So with this, it's like I would love for this just to be like not really like a crazy complex fight, but it to be more of like a fight that really pushes Erza at her core. Because maybe that's what Erza needs really when you think about it. Because as I said, Luso's cool, but ultimately her power, she's just a better version of people like Rufus or Yoko. She didn't have any follow-up bite. Like, imagine it's like, well, everything that you destroy eventually adds up. Like, every time Erza cuts... Oh, top chat, hang on. I forgot this was a feature. I want live chat so it shows all messages. There we go. Shout out to Tardos for actually being threatening. Tardos is awesome. Both my cat and the guild. I don't think anybody in Gold Owl, I think, has actually been like goofish. Because even, well, I say goofish because Sai is goofish. But I mean, like, in terms of a bad display, everybody so far, I think, has had a moment that makes me go, like, okay, cool. Like, Gayanai and Kotetsu both did some stuff. Sai ultimately has done some useful things, though some ultimately counterproductive things. It seems very clear, as said, that Luso's problem is just that she isn't disciplined enough, I think. I don't think she has the focus and the experience that she needs, whereas what we're going to be seeing here is the difference between raw talent, honed and unhoned. And I think that could be really cool just to see it side by side and what we're going to get. I really like the idea that they were dragons, but I think if Luso getting down from that attack, I think it's more likely that they are closer to someone like Duke, where they're humans with extreme talent for alchemy, rather than, dragons in disguise like I was hoping. I had my fingers crossed on the dragons in disguise thing, but if they're just really talented humans, I think it would make a lot of sense to kind of like show that as a gap between them and it being the whole bit between them as well. Because I think that would be really cool. Actually, are they twins or are they just sisters? I don't know if that's been brought up. Either way, it's the same idea as like these two people, same family, these two sisters. They both have the strong latent potential, but the difference is one of them is goofy and laid back, and she has more fun, and the other one is like actually disciplined. She takes things more seriously. If it's like Erza just going through the setups of that, I think that'd be really cool because it shows. Like, it could show the difference for her having an opponent where it's like, okay, this is just, I have to figure out how to get around this power and I can secure a win. Versus, yeah, this is now a character who has, like, a strong power and strong skill. And that's what a lot of things ultimately come down to, is there's a difference between a character who's really strong who's just strong and a character who's really strong and has, like, got the experience, discipline, and capabilities. See, kind of stat. You got to keep in mind too of like Erza's armors. Erza's armors are not like it's not like, oh yeah, her first armor, second armor, that's now her weakest. That's one of her go-to armors. That's one of her standard armors for a reason. It's one of her better armors. It's not something that she just like, oh yeah, I put on my weakest armor in my first appearance. It's always been one of her stronger go-tos. It's not like her most notable. But Heaven's Wheel, like it's always been a really strong one. But on top of that, like we already got confirmation from Luso herself that she was going to lose to a weaker attack if it hit. It's just like difference of characters who are more casters, who are designed to not take damage, who are wholly set up to throw out attacks and weave around opponents' attacks and figure out how not to get hit. But sometimes you get caught, and she didn't have anything that was really overwhelming for Erza. She just kept throwing stuff at her, and she also lost focus even after her sister said, "Hey, calm yourself down. Like, you got to get your focus on." Or, like, we had it directly on there, like we're seeing it, and that happens. Just as a character's strong doesn't mean that you don't keep in mind their character's personality. And we're directly, literally seeing that on panel. And I'm pretty sure that's the whole point of what we're seeing between Eni and Luso. Is Luso is raw talent and capabilities, just put out there of, like I said, raw talent. And Eni is that raw talent honed into a blade, disciplined, and actually given a shape that is more than just, a massive swarm. Like, you gotta think about it like that. There's a huge gap between when characters are just being, oh yeah, I have a really OP ability, let me use it, and oh yeah, this person has a really OP ability, and they have the experience and imagination and like actual output to do all these things with it. Yeah, but she caught all of them. Like, when a character gets caught in an ability or gets caught in an effect, you have to keep in mind they're caught in the effect. They got transformed and they were having their magic altered and messed with. Minerva almost beat Luso at some point. She straight up admits it. But again, from what we've seen, on top of this is Alchemy might even have different branches. Like, you have a wizard and you have a battle wizard. You have somebody who's more direct combat orientated. And that's what we might be seeing with these two as well. Is Luso is as an alchemist, but Eni is a combat alchemist. She's somebody who is actually designed her moveset to be in a battle, in combat, ready to fight, actually able to take hits. Because you have to keep in mind when characters have their powers, is you have to see, like, okay, well, how much of their durability is enhanced by their power level versus their experience. Like, have they built up a durable body from, years of getting beaten up, somebody like Lucy, or is it somebody who also has, like, a direct innate durability increase with their magic? Like, being a Dragon Slayer, automatically your durability is going to be stronger than others. See, she even says, let me pull it up. She gets in her body, explodes. Hey, she just says that was the real her. She's fine. Like, we can tell. Like, there's a degree in here. And on top of that, even then, like, she's telling her, stop messing around. And Erza is a character who learns watching her opponent. We know this for a fact. So an opponent who gives her the time to figure out around her abilities and to figure out, like, a way to adapt, you're just giving her some of the show. And we saw, because, like, the thing is that you have to keep in mind, it's like when you're like, oh, this character got caught and it was dumb of this character to do this. That's the point. Like, we have Eni literally saying, like, commenting on it, like, hey, stop. Like, you're gonna get yourself messed up. But the whole point of it was to set up for Eni to fight, not for Luso to be the fight. No, you have to think about the power set of the person. Characters who were designed not to get hit, somebody who is more of a ranged caster, it doesn't make sense for them to take, like, a big attack. Like, even if it's, like, even a medium range, medium set attack from somebody who is a direct physical onset fighter. because their body is not going to be used to taking that kind of damage. And Alchemy doesn't have any direct way of physical durability increasing from what we've seen that they're capable of. From what we've seen, she can use Alchemy to make decoys so the damage doesn't actually hit her, but it doesn't change the fact that if her actual body is hit, then she might not be able to withstand the damage. Whereas Annie is clearly the opposite. Like, she's going to be able to take the physical damage if she's taking the fight to a physical, direct confrontation. Now, I do not think Erza can beat Jalal. Jalal is too powerful. We're probably going to do another stream. What's today? Tuesday? We might do a stream we're either going to do a stream tomorrow, but Thursday for sure. I'm thinking Thursday, because then I'll do one on Friday. Or maybe Friday. Yeah. Or wait. Yeah, tomorrow is... Oh, crap. Hang on. Let me think about that. Maybe stream on Friday. I might stream tomorrow and then stream Friday, because I was going to stream on my birthday. Just for a little bit, just to chit-chat, see how everyone's doing. Takes some out of my day the one solo day to chat with my fellow fairy tale weebs. As a sacrifice to say, hey, don't worry guys, we're getting back on schedule. Erza has like a basic grasp though on some of the magic, and she just uses it as direct enchantments. Like, I imagine that, like, when it comes to learning a new magic, especially if you're already like a really experienced wizard, learning the basics of another magic isn't a problem unless it's like directly countered to like how your general magic works, as we've seen, fire and ice. But it's once you get to more complicated spells and whatnot, like being able to just make raw starlight, I don't think is crazy for her. Yeah, utilizing those attacks to counter like stuff from Minerva. And stuff from Minerva to where Minerva has a enchantment that she has to do, so you have time to set up or get away from said attack. It gives you a window of opening. If Erza is just doing like a sword onslaught and then just doing what she can to get up close to you so it doesn't give you the opportunity to have that window of patience and countering, what are you going to do? And on top of that, we know that part of the reason, if not the biggest reason, that she lost is she was losing her focus. Because when you look at the fight, Erza just goes into her... When you see what they're doing, is Erza can't get the direct hit in when Luso is winning. When she's just got the advantage of throwing shit at Erza and mass span, and Erza... Because Erza's trying to get to her, but things just keep spawning and getting in her way. So she stops doing that, stops trying to get to Luso and says, oh, well, I'm just going to deal direct damage and fight against all of what she throws me. And goes into her armor for mass spam and just starts spamming swords. She starts throwing them all around, sword nuking the entire area, and making it so anytime that Luso spawns anything, it immediately gets destroyed. And she's just getting mad about it. And he comments on it. She's telling her to calm down. And as we see, like, once she's freaking out and yelling and losing her cool, that's when Erza's able to get in close and is able to get an attack in. So it has way more to do with the fact that she just didn't stay focused, and then she just started to freak out because she was losing. And she even has Luso right there. And I think that that's important because it's a fight that is designed to be a loss for one of the characters in that manner, but it's just a warm-up for the character who commented on it, who clearly is not going to have this issue, who, as we've seen, now has specialty in what Erza already is working with. So she's just going to be in a more dangerous fight. Because when you think about it, Luso, essentially, like, Erza is fighting the environment. She's fighting the environment and things just coming at her. from what I would guess of what Annie's going to do is Annie's going to be a direct fighter, but she's going to be altering the terrain to benefit her constantly throughout the fight. So Erza could be fighting somebody that's using her own powers, using the same powers she has, but better and more advanced, to where it's becoming a much more dangerous way of just she's just fighting a more advanced, dangerous version of what she's capable of, and she doesn't know how to deal with it. I think that would be really cool. I think that would be badass, but I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense because the Signario sisters, there's two of them. I don't know why people are acting like they're already done when the whole point was clearly to set up one to, while at the same time revealing that the other one isn't going to have any of those same problems. You got to look at essentially the layout of the fight and each character trait, what we're looking at, what are exactly they're working for or working with. Because if the Signario sisters were both like that and they both just caught out, I would agree. But like the whole point is clearly that one of them is talent and capability, but no focus and discipline, where the other one has that focus and discipline and is going to show what the power actually honed can do. Because I imagine to what Annie is going to do with her alchemy is like in the way that it's implemented is going to be way more advanced and direct, but with nuances and effects that are going to be hard to deal with. Whereas, as we saw with Luso, she just spams. Like, she just kind of like thinks on the fly. Like, she fights very cartoony and silly, but it's like that kind of unpredictable type of fighting that would be difficult for someone like Erza to fight without having any idea that it's coming. Because if you're a character that when you fight you rely on analyzing your character, figuring out how they work, looking for weaknesses, and all you're getting is this spam of things that aren't consistent and your environment isn't consistent and it's always shifting and altering, I think that's way more of the problem for Erza fighting someone like Luso rather than it just be like a straight power contest. Sam's always grumpy. I don't get it. Because Annie's ready to look really good with that 6 sword. I really like the sword. I'm hoping it goes through like a transformation, like maybe she gets a slight upgraded version. Man. So, I guess it comes down to like what the plan is going to be for, like, because with the Signario sisters, I like them. Like, I enjoy them. I enjoy their characters. I'm very, very interested to see what Mishima's plan is at laying this out after we got this chapter. Because, like, if she just used some form of combat of magic, I figured she was going to be like Yoko and she was going to alter her form. Like, oh, I alter the environment and then make myself like a beast of that environment. Like, you know, you make yourself into a vampire kind of like bat monster for like if you were in a night theme. Or, you know, a big lava fire creature for this, like, hellscape kind of setup. But, like, the fact that she's using Requip, and I wonder if it's, like, she can copy Erza's abilities and, like, add it to her own, or if she just has Requip, and she just also has this ability. Because, like I said, Luso versus Erza comes down to stuff spam versus stuff spam. And now we have somebody who's going to have technique, and Erza's not going to be able to do what she did with Luso with Annie. And I think that's going to be really cool. But anyway, we're going to call it good for that one. This was actually... So, like, it's funny is I wasn't too hyped on the chapter going into it. Like, I obviously wanted to read it. But I just didn't have anything at its core beforehand for me to say, like, the Signario sisters, hype-wise, other than they're interesting characters that we just don't know a lot about. But I really like the whole Requip thing set up because Erza has not had like a opponent like her in a long time. Because when you think about it, Yoko, no. Freaking Irene, no. Kyoka, no. Like, really, when you think about it, it's like, what, the last... Like, somebody like Kagura, but Kagura's fight was a little shorter, but also, like, Nightwalker. Because, like, whenever she has an opponent that is like her, it's like when Natsu fights another direct head-on Dragon Slayer. It's different than when he fights somebody with a bunch of just tricky, weird perks and abilities. Do you think Musashi is better than Aladdin? Personally, I do like Musashi better than Aladdin. I just like I like his backstory. I like the way that he interacts with characters, and I just like his general plot and whole setup more too. But that's my opinion. I personally like Orient more than Magi. I think Orient is more interesting, at least to like my tastes. I really like the weird crystal setup. I like the different bannermen and the different kind of like little setups between the groups. It's been a minute, so I've forgotten some of their names off the top of my head. I'm gonna see, cause like what else came out today? Gachi Akuda, Eden Zero, and Four Nights, right? I think that's everything else that came out from this day. Oh, is there a Chainsaw Man chapter? Is there a Chainsaw Man chapter? I actually don't know. Let me find out. Hold on. Because shouldn't there have been? I'm trying to remember. Was Chainsaw Man on break this week? That was Chainsaw Man chapter. Ooh, hang on. Let me read this. I like the whole stuff with the Death Devil. I thought that was neat. Because this weird dude, I forgot his name. He's like getting ready to have this whole like plan to kill the Death Devil. I really like Orient. How's it going on the VTuber model? I haven't done that. When did I say I was going to be a VTuber? I don't know if I can make it as a VTuber. I could maybe look into it eventually, but I was like figuring at some point just getting set up with like my green screen and just like getting a nice camera. Attack on Titan final episode we released on Friday. I'm not a big Attack on Titan guy. Like, depending on where the anime comes up, I might be able to get set up if we can do live reactions to the 100 Years Quest anime when it comes out. I think that would be really fun. Or you can see my... like, as long as they don't fuck up the anime. I hope they don't. That would hurt me so much in my core. It's just a Kyanchi chapter. She just running through... Let me see. I'm about to jump off here in a second. I'm trying to finish this Chainsaw Man chapter. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys in a bit. Like I said, I'm going to plan on streaming either tomorrow too and then maybe Thursday. We're definitely going to stream on Friday though. So we'll see. I probably will just do like some short streams. I wanted to go back to what I was doing and have like early morning streams and just streams where we just talk about something just to get the content out there. 2-hour video, talk about talk about Grimoire Heart and the different members. I think that would be fun. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm going to probably get that set up and planned. I just have to figure out like how to do it in sections, and then I guess just we'll get some general questions about what's going on with